Hello, lovely people. It is Tuesday. What is today? Oh, there we go. It is Tuesday, May 10th. I hope you're having a beautiful day. Today we're going to be working on this model of Lord Waddlebottom. He's a character from my webcomic, The Middle Age. My name is Steve. I'm a web cartoonist. And, yeah, I think it looks like everything's cooking. Over on... Hey, LJ. Nice to see you. Over on the Discord, I mentioned that we might have different music. That is not the case. We're going to have... not yet. There's another service that I was looking at. And it seems like it's great, but there's a lot to learn about it before I'm able to download all the tracks and replace what we have here. So we'll have Incompetech one more day. And actually, tell you what, little screen's going to come up here a moment. My kitty is yelling at me. I'll be right back. And we're back, which just means more credits for Kevin MacLeod below. So made some progress from our stream on Thursday. I was feeling a little bit under the weather and made some tweaks to the face of Waddlebottom. I'm not sure if I'm happy with that, but it's better than it was. And I did finish the wing-ish, where I brought in some of those, quite a bit of another additional row of feathers, a lot of basically repeating the steps we had done before, which was extruding elements from the basic wing shape and creating a structure. There's still some gaps, like you can see that here. There's no real way to indicate what I'm talking about. But I don't know. I worry about this thing printing properly. So I'm going to try to tighten some of these spaces up if I can before I get any further along. So these have not been merged into a single shape. They're still individual shapes, kind of with a simple merge. Nothing too complicated. So I'm just mushing them down just to tighten up the spaces some more. But the big problem we had with from the last version that everybody saw was that things were fairly open. Like light would shine through gaps in the feathers, which to me meant that every once in a while I get a little glimpse of something that looks like it just needs to be a little bit more snug. That I worry that the material will, that it'll be impossible for people to print. So fortunately, autosave. Still the yes. LJ asks, still the high drama tunes? Yes. And that was kind of the problem I was getting with the other ones I was testing out, was they don't really have like fantasy tracks. Apparently it is, what's the name of the vendor? It's two artist names. I think they go by under the service Stream Tunes, S-T-R-E-E-M Tunes, and all their content is allegedly free, registered with YouTube, registered with all the services, saying, okay, people can use this. Kind of like what Kevin MacLeod is doing with Incompetech. But they've created playlists kind of organized by genre, and they just link to a Google Drive where you can download everything. But on their website, they have multiple playlists, but they don't seem to include all the tracks I see behind the scenes. So I want to make sure that they're all, legit approved for people to download and use. I don't want to use something that's not. And the thing is, a lot of the track titles have clearly names referencing other IP. For instance, it might call it like The Avengers. I don't think there's one called that, but it's a name that makes me go, okay, are they remixing something here? I want to make sure I'm playing everything above board. I don't want to deal with it. I don't think there's going to be a content strike, but I just don't want to deal with it. Okay, that's a little too mushed. It's overlapping poorly there. I'm going to see if I can fix that. So the idea with today's stream is to continue working on these, work on the Waddlebottom the entire stream. Am I going to duplicate the wing for the other side? LJ asked, yes, for sure. That's one of the reasons why it's like, okay, I don't mind putting in a ton of work on this side, knowing full well that it will be duplicated. You can see that the background image here has been expanded to include a back view of the figure and how pieces might fit together. So there's a lot. There is a lot to do. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to basically carve and cut into each one of these feathers. And I started doing some of that, like with this second feather here. And I was like, oh, no. This is pretty easy to handle the... uh-oh. That timer for the free comic book day thing. No, that's still legit. Happy free comic book day, everybody. Even though it... Oh, my... Terrifying. Every time there's a new follower, I have a little heart attack. Well, thank you so much. I'm not sure I'm going to read. What's up? It's Carrie. Carrie! It is Carrie. Nice to see you. I think this is like the iPad Pro, LJ. I don't think they're too small. I mean, I'm comfortable with this size. I've been using this 12.6, 12.9 version, whatever it is, for a while. And I like it a lot. And oh, my cat is crazy right now. He just brought me a toy mouse. Carrie asks on Twitch, I thought you were going to be up at Cars, Comics, and Collectibles this weekend, but I didn't see you there. No, I was a little under the weather, so I couldn't make it. I didn't feel right. I have to throw a toy mouse. Yeah, I didn't feel up to the, I didn't want to go up there and get anybody else sick. I didn't, apparently wasn't COVID according to the tests I took, but I didn't want to get on a flight or 4 flights around other people, because if I didn't have COVID after 4 flights, I'm certain I would have. But I missed it. It's the first free comic book day at that shop that I've missed in, I don't know, 15 years. I was even at the one in October, but I just did not feel good. So I took the weekend very easy, and I'm feeling way better now. I feel like the mesh on that's low. No, that's not bad. I'm just going to draw some of these. I don't know what they're called in the middle of a feather. But like the spine of the feather. But I've used the, I don't think I'd mind a smaller iPad. I think it's, mostly I just like the ability to zoom in. It's easy on my eyes. I can see the details I want. So my cat's going crazy right now. Oh my goodness, that's a terrible cut. Kind of shattering the... I really have to increase the mesh, or it's... something's complicated. Something's going on with this particular feather. I'm going to really increase the mesh. Try smoothing it out. Yeah. So this is a 3D model of will be a mini, like a little miniature, a D&D size mini. I would love to have shown everybody I have a set printed that I've made based on models I've made here on the stream of characters from the Middle Age. And this is Waddlebottom, Lord of all Ducks, who appears in the story. And I was excited to bring these to the free comic book day and just have them on the table. I'm getting an oversized version of Sir Quimp printed, which will be, I'll have at conventions, kind of a nice piece that will hopefully make it easier for people to see from a distance and come over and see what I've got. If I can get the price down on those, I'd like to see if I can make those available to everybody. You know, I got to work with the vendor I'm working with is really great, but I think I have to modify the files quite a bit so that they print well at that size. Is there another official free comic book day in October? No. It was pushed back because of the pandemic. I think 2020 was canceled, sort of, kind of. There was all these changes that happened with comic book distribution in 2020, and so it happened, but it was like this kind of, here are the books, you know, it was like curbside or something like that. Maybe part of them were delayed because it was in May and everything shut down in March and April, and so 2021 was pushed back all the way till October. So it's usually the first Saturday in May, and I think that's going to be, I think we're returning back to that schedule. So the next one will be next May, and if all goes well, I'll have a book for that. I was hoping to talk to some of the Diamond people while I was there. Seems like there's a dent in the wing right there. I'm gonna see if I can fix that while I can. Turn off symmetry. I wonder if symmetry was the problem there, like if I was moving something and symmetry caught it. Well, another terrifying follower. Hey, Alex, nice to see you. Hey, Eric. The stream is for the birds. How dare you? How dare you? Security. I like that. I gotta just make sure that the feathers are overlapping in the right way. Of course, I don't know what I'm doing. Again, my name's Steve Conley. I'm a cartoonist. And I've been dabbling with this 3D modeling program for the last few months. And I seem to be getting the hang of it. And so you can see in the bottom right corner some of the models I've made. And those will all be D&D size minis. A little bit larger. So if you're one of those 28mm purists, I'm sorry. This is heroic size. So it's like 32. And even 32. I did try to make the hero's eye line 28mm. Apparently that's like the ideal size. But a little bit off. I've done some mushing around here. I'm going to undo. The nice thing about this program is called Nomad Sculpt. I'm using it on an iPad. It has 1,000 levels of undo. And I'm going to undo them all. There's something weird going on with some of these feathers. And I'm trying to see if it was something I did. No? A little bit. Okay, let's... Basically, I don't like this. My cat is going crazy. You probably hear him in the background. I think he's been creating in and around his litter box, and he's just very proud of his work, and he wants you all to know about it. Holy cow. All right. So the main issue with this so far I like how the feather's coming along. The wing is coming along. Let me turn off our background reference for a moment. Except there are some gaps between that row of feathers that wrap around the leading edge of that wing and just underneath it. So I'm going to try to tighten them up a little bit. I did that before, but I think I might have still had symmetry on, and so it was moving some things that I didn't want moved just yet. So I'm going through and moving. Just tighten these things up a little bit. The people who try to 3D print this will thank me. Or at least they won't feel the need to punch me in the face. Well, I'm glad the stream's peaceful. The music gets a little more intense a little bit later on. I apologize for that. These are mostly tracks from Kevin MacLeod and Incompetech, and they're really great. But there's some combat music coming up, and I apologize. It'll wake everybody up. So the whole wing, this whole leading edge is all one element. I don't remember why I grouped that. But I'm glad you're here. This is almost an ASMR channel. When I'm doing my cartooning, there's a lot of really small tick marks and for chainmail and stuff like that. So this has got a very ASMR vibe. So I understand that. And then I'll get hypnotized by my own whatever I'm working on, and so then I'll go quiet for a few minutes, and I apologize. All right, so that feather right there is kind of, there we go, a little bit better, right? I should use the drag tool, kind of stretch the shape a bit. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So, drag tool seems to affect more than one object, whereas the move tool is restricted to one of the unlinked objects. So, like as I move, for instance, I'll move this one feather, but see how it's not moving any of the others? Undo. But if I use the drag tool, it affects multiple feathers. So, that seems to be my... seems to be what I need to watch out for. So use the move tool. I can use the move tool to tighten these things up a bit. But I was talking with the vendor. I think we're going to be able to make the prices for the minis, the D&D minis. It'll be a Kickstarter that will start at the end of this month, and I think we can get the price down to where I was hoping it would be. You know, it's not. You can go to any gaming store and pick up a bag of like a small thing of minis for like $7, like an individual figure for $7 or something like that. I can't get the price that low. I think they're making thousands of them. But I think I can get right now. It looks like it'll be a set of 4 for $50. So all the 4 figures you see there, including the extra largish Quimp. I mean, he weighs a lot. There's a lot of plastic, a lot of material in this figure, and so. But the idea is that Quimp will be sold separately. So if people just want Quimp, they can get that. But if they get the set of, they can get the set of all of them. And then I'm going to throw in some other stuff because I do wish I could have gotten the price down more. To me, the perfect thing would have been like all 4 figures for $25, but there just was no way. And I don't know how other people do it, given that they have to pay people to model them, and here I am just making them myself. So that's one less cost I have, but I still have to have them manufactured and make the masters and the molds, and it's a ton of stuff. So, you know, I'm glad they're out there. I seem to be working with very reasonable people. They seem very, very nice. And they do good work, and that's the most important thing. So if it was going to be expensive and then it would come in, you know, it'd be terrible. It's like, oh, they like the worst of all worlds. So I think this will be good. Yeah, custom-made stuff is always expensive. Yeah, exactly. That's what Alex says on Twitch. Um, Carrie says, I've spent way more than that on Hero custom minis. Really? Have you? That seems like a... I guess they do charge like a minimum of like $15 a figure or something like that. That makes sense. Do they send you resin prints? They must. I think I spent like $45 on my main D&D mini. Wow. Wow. Does it have like a spectacular base? Was it a 3D? Did they print it in color? I mean, mine are monochromatic. I mean, it's going to be... They'll look like plastic. It's 3D printed. Yeah, I liked it. I downloaded when I made my first model. Let me save this where it's at. When I was making my first model, I downloaded one of their models so I could have in the environment. I loaded the STL file just so I could have a sense of how these things would fit next to one another. I think I still have it. Hero Forge Paladin. There we go. This is a very early version of the Sir Quimp figure. Let me turn that guy on. So they have an STL you can download. This is before I finished the armor. It's before I finished the chainmail. All the stuff that's happened with the Quimp figure. But that's how he was designed alongside that. So, yeah, that was fun. I'm glad they have a few free STL files you can download from their site. Just I think for people to test their 3D printer to see can they print this stuff at home. Yeah, totally agree, Carrie. I've played with their character maker as well. But for the longest time, I wanted to make my own characters, and I could never find a sculptor for it. I mean, I could find them, but they were either not available, they're too expensive, or it was a wild card because, you know, you hire somebody and then you got to pay them whether they oh my gosh, my microphone was a little too far away. You got to pay them whether they produce exactly what you want or not. I mean, I'm sure there are some that are like pay half up front and half if you love it, or half if you're satisfied, but you know, it just seemed to be like, you know, I couldn't find anybody who could do it. So I got this program and I just started making them myself, and I'm super happy with how they're coming out. Okay, so we're going to continue with modeling these individual feathers. Grab the smooth tool, increase the mesh, smooth it a little bit, grab the clay tool with a small brush, and we'll just paint in some of these spines. Smooth it out some more. And then take the trim tool. I'm going to cut out some of these notches. Again, it's meant to be chunky. You know, this isn't like for an animated series. This is for actually turning into a figure. So Waddlebottom isn't included with the 4 figures that will be with the set. Waddlebottom will either be a figure that will... I think right now the idea is it will be for the next campaign. You know, I only priced for the 4 figures that were completed. You know, there was no way for them to look at this figure because it's not close to done yet. I wasn't even sure if it's going to turn out all right. Alex on Twitch says there was this mathematician that worked with this glass blowing company to make Klein bottles. Is that hopefully that's how it's supposed to be said. So he could sell them. He wanted like 100, but it would come out way too expensive. So he made 1,000 and stored them under his house. That's fantastic. I make 10,000 of them. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. I self-published my first comics before print on demand was a thing. I mean, you could go to Kinko's. That's what print on demand was back in the day. Black and white. Maybe if you had a color printer. But color printers were even terrible. And I just had tons and tons of unsold books. because back then the minimum print run was 3,000 copies. So, oh, it was so many unsold books. And they are mulch in a landfill now, I think. Because everything back then was offset printed. So, you know, the idea that every time you turned on the offset presses, you had to do a lot of them to even make it worth turning the machines on. I don't want to smooth them too much. I don't mind if they get a little rounded. I mean, I don't want their I don't want these to be weapons, but if they get too soft, then they'll stop feeling like feathers, I think. Okay. So last Tuesday, I started building this figure, and I was not happy with it at all. I was trying to create the wing all out of a single element. Like, here's a big block or a big piece of clay, and let's carve a wing out of it. And it wasn't working. And so on Thursday, I was like, okay, let's try to build this one feather at a time. I think that's the timetable. And it kind of worked. Oh, no, that's what it was. At the end of Tuesday's stream, I said, well, if I build one feather and see how it looks. And that's what I was like, okay, this is looking okay. Can I duplicate the feather? Can I make a few different kinds of feathers and stack them and rotate them and make them look? And I've had photographs of ducks on my other screen, so I can kind of get the pattern roughly. I mean, this is not trying to be a decoy. You know, I'm not trying to fool other ducks. But let me remesh it a little bit more. I'm seeing like a little bit of stair stepping there. Oh, that's my cat sneezing. What are you doing, buddy? Him sneezing means he was chasing after something and ran head first into something, because he's a genius. Alex asks, I wonder if you need to be forklift certified to use an RD forklift, RC forklift, a remote control or radio controlled forklift. That's funny. And the nice thing about having a small number of figures made, not thousands of them, means that I don't have to make the Kickstarter goal like some unreachable number. And that's what I was afraid of too, because this is so far outside my wheelhouse. I've had some Kickstarters before, and they've been successful, but they've all been for books and for comics and stuff that I'm way more familiar with. This is way outside my wheelhouse. Kind of a dent in the feather there. I'm gonna try to. That's where I'm gonna put the cut to hopefully hide that effect. Mitigate it just a little bit. That's interesting. That is not cutting through. Every once in a while the model just does not behave. I think it might be part of the issue of working on an iPad version of it, where, you know, everything is kind of like a little bit of fakery. I'm sure people who used Blender and Maya are looking at this like, it's like trying to make a model with Legos. Or saying, I've done some 3D modeling, here's my Minecraft. Alex says, that reminds me of this movie that was going to be absolutely sick and was going to be made really talented director, but the Kickstarter goal was just too high. Yeah. SCP Heretic. I'll have to check that out. SCP Heretic. Yeah, I would much rather have a small, successful campaign. And then be pleasantly surprised one of these days by going... Actually, I've been pleasantly surprised by all of the campaigns so far. I started putting some of these cuts into the feathers before, but then all the cuts were the same, so as I brought them around, like each one of the feathers looked identical, and that started to not feel right. I think that one... I'm not even sure if that one has too many cuts in it. I think it does. I'm going to have to go back in time here a little bit and undo that. Again, this program has 1,000 levels of undo, and I use many of them. I use most of them. And I know this is all silly because eventually the figure's going to be that tall. What am I doing even worrying about this? But that's my life. So, starting last week, I joined the cast over... The cast might be the wrong word. The hosts over at the Pencil to Pencil podcast, which is on YouTube. We've got another episode tomorrow night. I'm not entirely sure what the topic is going to be. I hope we're going to be talking to Jamar about... who's one of the co-hosts, Jamar Nicholas, who's creator of Leon the Extraordinary, which is a new Scholastic Graphics graphic novel. I'm hoping we're going to talk with him about some of his recent trips where they've been bringing him around, and it's kind of his first foray into being kind of like legit big time publisher, or legit big time creator with like the biggest publisher of kids graphic novels in the cosmos. So probably also going to talk about, I hope we're going to get a chance to talk about George Perez, who was an amazing cartoonist who passed away last week. He was the co-creator of many characters, including... Oh my goodness. This feather is like way low res at the moment. Cartoonishly low resolution. Symmetry, we turn that off. He co-created the modern version of the Teen Titans. So... Robin existed and Wonder Girl existed, but Starfire, Cyborg, Changeling, Raven, co-created all of them. Had a very long run on Marvel's Avengers comics. Just an amazing creator. I mean, he also drew a few issues of a comic called The Thunder Agents, which I was a fan of. I got to meet him a few times. A wonderfully generous, kind person. Incredibly talented. I never got to commission him anything from him. Back when I was doing superhero type comics, I desperately wanted to get a piece from him, but every time I talked to him, it was always like 3 a few weeks after he had signed another exclusive with some big publisher. But a very talented, very kind person. Way kinder to me than my work has ever deserved. I've been very lucky with the heroes I've met have been very kind. Alex talking about the Kickstarter. I think that had the issue. Maybe it was overly ambitious. They announced their Plan B, though it seems the next movie is supposed to be set in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. As a really bad Blender user, it's super hard to emulate the randomness of nature. Yeah, I get that, Alex, for sure. Well, I think what's interesting is that I thought, Eric's saying, I thought I was going to punch through the book's publisher's YA bias, but alas. Yeah, I get that. It's weird because, like, I don't know, it does seem like a golden age for graphic novels. There seem to be more published than ever before. But I think a lot of people feel kind of locked out of some of the avenues of publishing and distribution. It's especially tough if you're working in a genre that's not particularly popular at the moment. Because, I mean, it's like, in the end, it's the salespeople are the ones calling the shots. You know, hey, this is a great book. Yeah, but can we sell it? And so that we're always going to be at the mercy of that stuff. I mean, unless you go the self-publishing route, unless you go the Kickstarter or the Indiegogo or Patreon or Ko-fi route. I honestly don't know if it's Ko-fi or Ko-fi. Yeah, exactly, Eric. I mean, the big challenge is that so many of these things are like, they can sell books as long as they can sell the thing you're creating as long as it fits into one of the boxes they've already made. And it's also a thing where it's like, I mean, it's kind of like they're being honest too, because it might be great and they might love the thing, but they might be honest and just say, I don't know how to sell that. You know, they're expert at selling a certain thing. And so, I mean, if your project got picked up by them, they might not know what to do with it. I think about that with comic shops often, where the joke was that, like, the retailer only stocks, like, if a lot of these comic shops, if they were a shoe store, they would only stock shoes in their size. You know, they only want to sell the thing that fits them. But it's also a thing where it's like, that's the thing they're good at selling. They've been, all these comic shops that have survived, you know, one crisis after another. You know, I got to defer to them if they can't sell my work, or if they think they can't sell my work. I can't really blame them. Is that one scene in Star Trek 3? The word, Captain? The word is no, so I'm therefore going anyway. I think about that a lot. And you may see some spam from me that pops up along here. There is a free edition of The Middle Age available from my web shop. So if you see it as it comes up, Or if you go to steveconley.com/shop and you go to the sale area, there is a free version of the first chapter of The Middle Age as a PDF that you can download. So if you prefer a PDF version, you can snag it now for free through the end of the week. And if you're unfamiliar with my work, The Middle Age is free to read online. It is the story of a knight who is in love with a dragon and has a cursed sword which hates him. There are 2 collections so far of the story. Soft covers are available from Amazon, and hardcovers are available from my own website, and they're currently on sale. So now they're as cheap as they were during the Kickstarter. They're only, I think it's $50 for the first 2 volumes, and they're hardcover and they come signed and all that stuff. But they'll also be available as part of the Kickstarter for the oh my goodness, that shape there, the idea that I'm drawing one shape and 2 are appearing, that's because I still had symmetry on and it was duplicating the effect, and I didn't want that. So I've turned symmetry off and suddenly everything's back to normal. But for the podcast I was mentioning earlier, if you want to check out YouTube Pencil to Pencil, if you subscribe there, you'll be notified when tomorrow night stream. I think it'll run starting at 8 o'clock East Coast time, and it usually runs about 2 hours. Oh, and there's the link. So if you check out that page, you can see the free downloadable edition of The Middle Age. Eric is saying... Oh, Alex, I missed a lot. I was rambling and drawing feathers. Alex says, I've always said money runs art. It just leads to stagnation and restricts artists. Yeah. It's weird right now because I do think we have more freedom than ever. But there's also so many more artists. So all that attention is spread out. But yeah. Well, money runs everything. You know, and then Eric says a lot of that we don't know how to sell it is because they're only thinking of a particular audience and ignoring others. Yeah, and in my experience, Eric says the audience publishing people envision they envision that the audience is like them. Yeah. It's easier to get seen, harder to get paid, from what I've heard. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was impossible to be seen back in the day. You thought, I get to... Just getting discovered was a thing that could happen, and that would almost like automatically mean you've made it. But now... I don't know. I mean, heck, I can 3D model on my iPad from a $15... with a piece of $15 software, which wasn't available 20 years ago or 10 years ago. So am I putting a 3D modeler out of business? I'm sure this is 3D person, a sculptor is going to be coming through on Twitch, will see what I'm doing, and he's going to be like, this hack, I can't believe this guy. And that person will look at my Kickstarter, my modest Kickstarter, which has any amount of success, and they'll just go, they'll just let anybody do this. I don't know. I don't know. That's why it just has to be something that makes you happy. Something and even if it can't make you happy, because that's a tall order sometimes, at least it can be something that you can look back on and go, I'm glad I did that. Symmetry's on again. We're approaching the celestial. Oh, it's still on. We must be approaching the universal axis here. Okay. Again, this is super small. Why am I putting myself through this? I know. But I do feel really lucky about... That's been the case from the beginning. I feel lucky that I'm doing this when I'm doing this. You know, crowdfunding didn't exist in the past. I think of artists like Wally Wood, who... He kind of did. So Wally Wood was this classic... Oh, heavens. I had the wrong feather selected. Wally Wood was this classic EC comic artist. He also, most notably, to modern comic fans and you know, and Netflix fans and Marvel Cinematic Universe fans, he pretty much helped recreate Daredevil. Like, he gave him the red costume. Before then, it was like a yellow and red costume. But really amazing science fiction illustrator and cartoonist. But I think he was challenging to work with, and he kind of started doing crowdfunding. He had a Friends of Wood, I think he called the group. And it was like $1 a month he wanted from people. Basically, it was a Patreon before the internet. And people would get a newsletter, and he would include... Oh, heavens. This notch was created because of that. The accursed symmetry was on. So I'm going to backpedal a little bit here. Turn symmetry off. And add another notch. So he was kind of doing, you know, Patreon before Patreon. That is way too low res. Let's back up a little bit more. Let's really increase the res. So he would have done... Also, he did a lot of adult, you know, mature... all age, you know, basically nudie stuff. He did a lot of that stuff. And so, can you imagine him on Patreon now? He would have cleaned up. You know, so, I do feel fortunate about the time I'm working in, the idea that I could be working on this silly comic and have and make a go of it. You know, pretty remarkable. So, as tough as it is, it's you know, the people who came before us would love the advantages we have now. And all the stuff before, like, their problems were all like they had to audition for people, and they had to, you know, I mean, that's kind of still everything we're complaining about when it comes to traditional publishing and, you know, editors and agents and all that stuff. You still have all that garbage to deal with. So I kind of like not living in that world. You know, it's easy to say that too when I'm, you know, I talk a good game, but if Scholastic came by and said, "Hey, we'd like to do a kid's version of this thing. Do you want to do it?" And I'd be like, I would like money and an audience and a ton of people. Oops. Can I just go through here and turn off symmetry? I'm turning off symmetry on dang near everything ahead of time, though, so I don't have to keep hitting my own head against that. Hey, Jimmy James. Talking about Wally Wood passing before he's even born. Yeah, I know. A shame. Oh, Carrie, so nice to see you. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed you in Maryland. It's so lovely that you came by. I hope to see you again. Eric says, Wally Wood's a perfect example. Virtually no one in the book publishing would know who Wally Wood is. Totally true. And a lot of them, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be the thing of what's the popular style? Do you draw on that style? I mean, my work is, again, just to nobody's taste. Except my own and a handful of people. That's what I believe. I believe that we, you know, our work will find an audience. We find each other. I truly believe we find each other. Comic fans have been hunter-gatherers forever, you know. In order to find our comics, we had to go find that hole-in-the-wall shop that was by the train tracks, you know. The place where some dude who just loved comics or some lady who just loved comics really, you know, loved it so much that they opened up this shop that in the cheapest place they could find. And they were like, well, how's anybody going to find this shop? And almost all the shops I went to as a kid were like these holes in the wall, kind of hidden Diagon Alley kind of stuff, like, or Nocturne Alley kind of stuff, where you had to have a radar sense, some sort of tracker to find your way to them. But we found them, you know, we knew where those dollar bins were. And so I do think we find each other somehow. We should be farmers. Yeah. Okay. But you know what I deserve more than anything? I deserve another sip of coffee. I'm going to hit the view button. Let's take a look at this in a different light. Let's turn our post-processing is on. That's kind of a fake shadow. Not real shadow, not like real... There's no genuine light source doing any of this stuff. This matte cap is kind of applying a sphere's lighting to everything. So everything has a highlight, reflected light, blah, 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 blah. There's a global aspect to it, but it's not like each individual thing is treated with that. But let's do this. Let's save. And then I'll take a look at this in a different lighting. But I hope everyone's having a beautiful Tuesday. I do not hate how this is coming together. So that's the idea. What we've done today is we've gone through and added some of those spines to each one of the feathers that have not had them yet. There's one here that is untouched. I'm going to go through and do that one. I'm also cutting in these nicks, kind of indicating the spacing in the feathers. And a couple of these feathers are meant to be loose, kind of pushed away from the shape. I know that will make life difficult for 3D printers, but hopefully I'm going to build this with enough structure, enough strength that the whole thing will keep it from falling apart. Hey, KV Art. LJ says it's much better looking in chocolate. That's very fair. They were feeling like chocolate-covered graham crackers for a while there. So right now we're going to keep cutting in these little nicks and drawing in those little spines into everything. All right, let's return to chocolate mode. It's all, I really want to have some like graham crackers, chocolate covered graham crackers or something. Why isn't Keebler a sponsor? Or Godiva, somebody like that. So I've got a very thin brush and modest opacity, and I'm realizing I haven't turned the mesh way up. That's a common mistake I have. When this is done, to keep the 3D printing folk and any manufacturers from losing their minds, I end up having to mush a lot of these things together into single objects. Basically turn them permanently from each feather is an individual object into a single shape. Basically it fuses them all together and their geometry becomes shared, so they stop being individual pieces and simply become the external shape of the thing, right? Because this is all math, right? So they suddenly become defined by the external thing, and so there's nothing to break apart. They basically become irreducible. And And I have to do that because as long as they're all individual pieces, these files are huge. So if at some point during this broadcast you see something pop up on the screen saying, Apple is unable to back up your files to the cloud. I've been getting that a lot lately. I have a few backups of this file, and I think it's fairly large. One of the downsides of working in this program is there's no desktop version of it, or, I can create the STL files, but, it's not the same. And so it makes backing it up a little more difficult. Whereas when I work in Procreate, those files and Photoshop are, they're way more compatible. I can swap them back and forth without losing any data, really. I think. Mostly. Cave Geek says, I'll be lurking, gotta do some studying. Well, thanks for being here, Cave Geek. Pop in when you can. James needs a Kit Kat duo. All right, I'm definitely going to be increasing people's blood sugar by working on these chocolates. Start with remeshing. Ooh. So no spoilers on this channel ever, but I did go see a matinee of Doctor Strange yesterday, and I will say I enjoyed it, and that it is absolutely a Sam Raimi movie. So if you're a fan of Sam Raimi, I think you'll like the movie a lot. But no spoilers of any kind in the chat, ever. Please, nobody. I mean, I don't even want to see spoilers for, Captain America: The First Avenger. I don't like. Just let people enjoy stuff. But I will give it a thumbs up. Not as big as my thumbs up for Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, which I've watched twice. Again, I was kind of recuperating. But I enjoyed the heck out of that. James says, make OBJ files, open them in Blender or another 3D program just in case. That makes sense. Are STL files less compatible? Are those mostly just for printing? I'm asking you. It's unfair to ask you verbally and then say, please type out your answer in the tiny field below. Eric says, caught up on Picard finally. Oh, good. All right, I'm going to bet I have to remesh this. Yeah, 38. I don't know how these things got to be so small. Oh, I do. So apparently, all these feathers were extruded from a basic shape. And so that basic shape that they were extruded from had a reasonable resolution, probably even a high resolution of around 400. And when I was working on a very small portion of it and extruding that piece out, it got a portion of the 400. That's why some of these have such a low resolution of like 300, of like 60 or 30 or something like that. Really low number. Not enough for me. There's not enough mesh there for me to cut pieces away or draw onto them, because it's basically like having too few Legos, and it's almost pixel art at that point. Eric, I saw your response about Picard. I get that. I won't. I'll say I enjoyed it. I'll also say that the original series and the Next Generation had some dud episodes in them. Quite a few dud episodes. I referred to every time William Riker broke out his trombone. So I don't know. I grade everything on a curve, I think. I'm just happy it exists. It's more like, hey, I found this. Here's an episode of Star Trek you've never seen before. Like, oh, wow. And you're like, and I'm going to, it's not perfect. Like, all right. But I'm just happy it exists. So in the end, when I merge all these pieces together, let's say I take all the outer wing elements and merge them into a single irreducible shape, they will end up having roughly 3 times the resolution altogether as one of these feathers now. So much of that material is going to be like, just, it's going to be crude. But again, these things are going to be very small, but I like putting the detail in now, even if it gets lost later. I think that's, we were talking about Wally Wood. I think that's in the spirit of Wally Wood. He put in lots of detail that would get obliterated either in the coloring process or in the printing process. Or he's the guy who I thought, when I was working on the Star Trek comic, I thought, you every time I worked with in a collaborative environment, the notion is, you hope that every step along the way, the thing will get better. You like to think that, but if the longer you work in that kind of corporate world where corners are cut all the time for one reason or another, almost always deadline, or, you have so many people working on a project that any one of them has a hiccup, then the whole thing kind of like stutters and grinds to a halt. So it's more like, it's not that I can do this thing and people will make it better in the next process. It's more like, make it so good now that even if the next person takes it down a notch. And so I think Wood realized that. I think he made everything 150%, knowing that by the time it sees print, it will be a solid 90. Like, it would get chipped away. Or tugged away from his vision, right? The idea that he was on this course, but other people would pull it. The gravity of the magnetism of other people's work would kind of tug it off course. Wow, my New Yorker was coming out there. Off course. I want to say though about Picard, not again, no spoilers. I feel like they tried to fit like 3 seasons worth of stuff into this season, which I found that to be a pleasant problem, as opposed to some of these shows which seem to have like, 3 episodes worth of content and they're stretching it out to 7, that sort of thing. It felt like they were trying to do so much, which is to me a better problem. Eric says, seems like Lower Decks remains the best. It's certainly the most fan servicey. If you want to just be like, if you want to have a good time and you're a Star Trek nerd and you want to see references to the Tholians or every little thing, these people are deep nerds. And yeah. OBJ contains more information, James says. You answered that question probably 20 minutes ago. I just was rambling. That's good to know. Okay, so there might be some of these feathers which need additional work done, but the body of the duck is in the... Oh, no. Only one. Okay, let's do it. Let's fix it. While we're there, we might as well. Smooth it a little bit. Trim tool. Cut. 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 Easy peasy. All right. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to merge, not voxel merge. Again, not turning these into an irreducible, just as basically kind of a grouping of them. Voot. We don't have them all there. We're missing a few. That's all of them. Simple merge. Sweet. I have to do the same notch cutting on all of those little feathers there too. But for the most part, I'm happy with the spines that they have, so I don't have to do a lot of rendering on them. I might touch up a couple here and there. Again, just to provide some variety so it doesn't look like they're all the same shape again and again and again. And Eric says that the lower deck characters likes them the most. They have the most some heart despite the comedy. I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. Picard had a hard time making the new characters compelling and interesting. I think they also had this weird problem. I think I talked about this before. There's a TV show called Miracle Workers where every season is like the same actors but in different roles. It felt like they had to bring everybody from season 1. I had the feeling that season 1 was no plan to do season 2. Like they knew this is a long shot. It's a brand new streaming service. We don't know what they're doing. Patrick Stewart's not getting any younger. And they didn't know if there was going to be a season 2, but there's going to be suddenly there's a season 2, and they have to find a way to bring all these wild cards, all these rebels, kind of like everybody in it was nobody was in Starfleet at that point. Suddenly, by the start of the next show, that's like they all have to be corralled together in some weird way. Real uphill battle to go from season 1 to season 2 with such an eclectic cast of characters, and still bring them all back, And even then, it runs into the problem of there's too many characters, too many backstories. Okay. I feel like this is coming along nicely. Let's take a look at one other thing. Let's get the body back visible again. So, what I try to do, something we talked about last time, was using the stamp tool. I created a feather, and using the stamp tool, if I've selected the body, symmetry is okay. No matter how subtle I make the gradation, it still textures these wings. So I thought the idea of using the stamp tool, I could just create feathers like this. Just draw them on. And then if they're a little rough, I could smooth them out. But compared to the individual feathers of the wing, these stamped bits, they just don't hold up. They don't have the quality. They look like they're made of, wire. They certainly look less tasty. So I'm going to end up feathering this bird. This is a recipe channel now. I'm going to feather this bird with individual feathers. And the idea is that the body will have feathers around it. I'm going to build, let me bring that reference back up. I kind of have to build the wings into the shoulders. And you can see a little example there on the side of how I'm going to do that. So they'll come together as if the back has a central spine, which will be kind of folded in, and the wings will come out. But the rest of it's just going to have feathers. And I think if I keep the scale nice and big, it won't be... I won't have to spend the rest of 2022 on it. But I also want to work on stuff like the stump and things like that. The tricky bit is going to be, again, the legs. Well, it's not... I mean, having done the wing, the body will be less complicated than the wing. That's the good news. I feel like in terms of the crazy work, of which is my wheelhouse, most of it's done. I feel like we're 50% of the way there. I mean, again, I'm going to be duplicating the wing. That saves me a ton of time. So this wing will get duplicated. The whole thing, thanks to our buddy the drag tool, can be manipulated in a way that you can see in the sketch. That one wing will be at one angle, the other wing will be at a different angle, and the two of them together will kind of give me this, hopefully, a fun, sweeping effect. Kind of hopefully a lively, bouncy effect. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Why are you doing this to yourself? But look at it. Look how pretty that is. It's what we talked about last time. What's the one thing we can offer as people is effort, you know? I tried a simpler approach, and I just didn't like the effect. But this is going to be fun. Somebody's going to have a lot of fun painting this, I think. And the structure is really doing a lot of the work. Although, there's that one feather. Oh, I don't want to break you apart just yet. Wait, no, maybe I do. Let me move you back just a little bit. Boop. Let me undo that, because symmetry was on. Who knows what unintended consequence that would have. Some kind of butterfly effect. Okay. Yes, it's crazy. Let's do these. Oh, they're all grouped together. So be it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to, these are all called feathers row 2. We're going to separate them. See all the individual feathers there. Starting with the top. Nice big remesh. Well, let's go through that and make it even look prettier. It's silly. I know it's a lot of extra work, but no, there's no saving that. Yeah, it's a lot of extra work. And it's for me. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there working right now for, you know, the Starbucks Corporation or whatever. And You know, I'm doing this for my Patreon supporters and for myself, which is frankly, a way more rewarding and I'm having fun. I'm getting to hang out with all of you, so yeah, can't complain. So I'm having a lovely day. And this is all stuff like if my grandfather was still around, he would, if he were just sitting there watching me do this stuff, he'd be like, this would be magic to him. All of this would be magic. Like, he'd be like, wait a minute, so you don't have a real job? Wait a minute, you're drawing on that piece of glass with a piece of plastic, and you're 3D modeling, and you're streaming it to the planet? I feel really lucky. Alex says, Alex says, honestly, my dad is exactly that way. He finds it incredibly unbelievable that I'm basing my entire career on video editing and 3D stuff. It's pretty great. I can imagine that the program I use to clean up my models is going to be very angry at me about this particular sculpt. I'm going to be making it do a lot of work. I actually ran into an issue with one of my models that I created, that there was a piece in it that was kind of hidden. It was in the Sir Quimp model, where he's got a very, very solid roundish torso, and layers on layers on. There's chainmail, there's a shirt, then there's a tabard, and there's gloves, and so much of it was all built around a central egg-like shape. That was what kind of started there, and then extruded things from there. At some point, it was all covered, and I deleted that eternal egg shape. And that caused a problem a little bit later on, because apparently there were some holes in the chainmail, little tiny holes. What that did was it created the whole thing basically turned the whole thing into an eggshell without the solidity underneath it all. And so when someone tried to resin print it, the whole thing just started to shift, because instead of allowing the software to construct the hollow and create a lattice work on the inside, which would keep it light, not use too much plastic, but at the same time give it solidity and stability. Without that, it basically created this, I don't know, a true hollow, like it would be an egg cup if I cut it in half. And yeah, so not good, not good. So I had to fix that, and you know, hopefully it's not going to run into any issues with any of the other pieces. But all that came up when I was making my edits to the thing, trying to shrink it down in size, and challenging. What's the resolution here? Still low, 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 low. All these things are low. So if you're on Twitch, if you scroll down, you'll see that I've updated the About page, all the little sections like info about the Patreon, info about my upcoming appearances and the schedule for Heroes Con, Palm Con, Savannah Comic Con, and Baltimore Comic Con. What else is there? Information about the t-shirts, the latest t-shirt design, which we created on the stream. That has been on my to-do list for a while. I was happy to get that done. Still no word on me reclaiming my affiliate status here on Twitch. I may have burnt that bridge. Huh, no. That should be in front. So this needs to be lower. There we go. Eric, I'm okay. I opened my ticket and they're probably just rolling their eyes like, this clown. First he rejects us, and now he wants to come crawling back. Oh, I could use a little more love there. Oh, what is that? Oh, that's what it is. So at one point, to fill some of these gaps, I duplicated the row of wings and created a second set. You can see that I have it selected there now. And it's basically the wing, the row that we were just cutting up, duplicated and moved back. Now it looks like peanut butter cookies, which I'm now even hungrier for. So that filling that you see there, or double stuff filling, was meant to fill a lot of the gaps in the shape, and it does a pretty good job. I think if I don't call attention to it by lighting it differently, it doesn't really stand out. And again, at the size, it will still be solid and still Again, I don't want to create a hollow shape that causes problems or has the whole wing droop. Alex says, I had peanut butter cups for the first time the other day. For the first time? Holy cow. That's fantastic. Yeah, Alex, Blizzard is, I think they have, I think their support shops are like in Austin or in Texas. I think they're in Texas, but I think they're in Austin specifically. James says, is there customer service support to talk besides up? I don't know. But either way, I'm like, it's not urgent. I mean, I basically just built the about page and have I got all these feathers to make. I can't be worried about the twitches. All right, so let's make sure I have everything selected. It seems I do. This feather is way cut up. That one at the top. I wonder if it's too cut up. So much of this working on this wing has been me getting better at working in this 2D environment pretending to be a 3D environment. I'm going to say that's better. And I'm going to delete the other one. That turned out to be easier than I thought it was going to be. I've eaten them. I've eaten a Pop-Tart, Alex, and I've asked myself that same question. What is a Pop-Tart? It's a decoratively iced roofing shingle. It's also equal with cinnamon raisin toast as the hottest thing that comes out of any, like right out of the toaster, a Pop-Tart and the raisins in cinnamon raisin toast are the hottest known things to man. There is I think it's raisins and toast, and then it's like lightning just under it. The heart of a nuclear reactor. Okay. That's voxel. We will increase the mesh. Let's paint in a little extra. Smooth it. And then we'll take the trim tool and we're going to cut out some shapes. Make them a bit more feathery. I like that. Frozen Pop-Tarts. Frozen? Really? I do like them like right out of the package. I mean, like it is sometimes good convention food. Like I'll just buy a box if like push comes to shove. You will be a hero in Artist Alley if you bring a box of Pop-Tarts to share with people. And if you bring tape, scissors, anything like that, because it's always like day one of the convention, you know, you get tape, and I can't talk because the last convention I forgot I didn't bring a pencil, so I don't. Up. Symmetry. My nemesis. Turn off symmetry, increase the mesh. Slice and dice. Symmetry, increase the mesh. How we doing? Oh yeah, LJ said, Steve, you're a Virgo. You're supposed to get organized a week in advance and have your supplies packed in alphabetical order. Yeah, I was out of practice for conventions, and I drove there, which is no excuse. Like when you drive to a convention, they're the best. If you fly there, you're like you're weighing everything. You're trying to get under the 50-pound bag weight for the airline, so you don't get hit with a charge. Or it's got to fit in overhead, and you're basically just doing everything to squeeze onto the airplane with all your gear. But when you're driving, it's like, yeah, I'll bring an extra stack of books. Yeah, I'll bring a lawn chair. I don't know, you just extra set of towels. You don't know. So, and I got there and I was like, oh, because my kit had been this kind of thing that I've got my go bag for comic conventions, and it got dusty over the pandemic. I hadn't done anything, and so I grabbed it thinking it's got everything in it, and I was wrong. Okay. Even though my computer's going to say, hey, you're running out of room, I'm going to save as again. Exactly, Alex. Okay. So this is number 4. Usually the models get to around number 8. That's when they're done. So I know I've got 4 or 5 saved versions of this. Let me type in a couple of codes here. This is some more about... let me see. This is my threadless shop. It's only got 2 items in it at the moment, but if you want to check it out, there's that. And if you want to check out my Patreon, that's my Patreon. I think I also have one for my shop. If you haven't checked that out, let me just type that. How about that? So those are some links if people are interested in checking out my work. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing great. We're doing great. I kind of feel like, I'm not sure how many, if I'm going to put those nooks in everything. It's hard to tell because the way they catch the light sometimes, I'm not entirely sure. Let's leave the wing for now, and let's see if I can get the body to even roughly be feathered the way I want it to be. Now there's going to be some additional feathers I'm going to put on top of everything to kind of suture the wing and the body together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to remesh the body, not because it needs it, but because that puts it at the bottom of my menu. Like automatically, the thing you remesh gets put at the bottom of the list. Calling this a menu is wrong, but the list of objects. With the newest thing you've created, or the newest thing you've remeshed, or merged, or separated being at the bottom. Basically, the thing you've modified the most recently is at the bottom of the list. So what I did was, when we were looking at this on Thursday, the head and the body were connected. The idea is that the mallard has this kind of white collar around the neck. So I'm going to create an indent for that. So it kind of will have a different altitude around, the different topology around that section of it. And then from the collar down, that's where the feathery texture will come in. And I'm going to build it from the tail up to the body. That way, as they are layered on like shingles, it will hopefully have the effect I'm trying to get here. Yeah, I'm with you, Alex. There's some ducks in a local pond, and I'm gonna put a few tail feathers on there. We talked about that. I think LJ was saying, "Oh no, how dare you, LJ?" There's some. I'm gonna put a few tail feathers on there, but I'm definitely still want to have that little bit of a duck butt on there. I think that will make him cuter, even cuter than he already is. This legend of ducks amongst ducks. Oh, I moved our body. And so once I have the body feathered, then I'm going to try to move it and see if I can move things around, probably using the drag tool to modify it and give it a bit more life, even though it's super symmetrical when I'm building it. Even if I have to redraw that head later, recreate that head later on, maybe even shift the body quite a bit. But I'm mostly just seeing if I can make this work at all. Okay, so we're going to remesh it to start. I said I didn't need to do that, but I was wrong. Let's start with some tail feathers. Using the select mask tool. Turning off symmetry. Turning on the lasso. Turn that mesh up, way up. I wonder. I was thinking about if I sampled a smaller part of the body there, that would allow those pieces to be smoother. But maybe I'm not maybe. I'm absolutely overthinking it. Tell you what, I'll take a step back here and do some drawing on the figure, and see if that will help guide what I'm doing here. So I will use this blue. Let's bring it down a little bit. Bring the intensity down. Bring the size of the brush down. So maybe you put the feathers in underneath where the tail feathers will be. Just basically, let's do straight feathers all the way up, and if I need to add some additional feathers, I'll do that. Kind of like the guide I created for Quimp's armor. Whoops. Don't know why I don't have symmetry on here, but that's what I get. Okay, let's try extruding one of these things. I was thinking about that, LJ, about the props, about props from the story. I was thinking about that with him. But I also kind of like the idea that, again, he's not... I mean, I don't want it to be another food item. I don't want it to be another his flagon or that mug he's drinking out of when they're in the town of Gaff. It also could have been the Obscenicon, because there's that short story that's available to Patreon supporters about Waddlebottom versus the Heck Lord. And I thought about having him possibly standing on top of the book. But so far, it also paints me in a corner. Like, the sooner I break that that habit of having to have some sort of additional prop in the, that little extra thing for the action figure. That was a question that on the I did the Jeff Grogan's podcast. Jeff does one of the pieces of fan art during the intermission, and he has a podcast where he talks about Charles Schultz's work in the Peanuts comic strip, and interviews cartoonists. And he talks about one of the questions is, when I was interviewed on it, was what would your action figure accessory be? And I think that's important for the character. Certainly with toys, that's an important question. Oop, auto saving, smoothing. Oops. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. There's an issue sometimes when you're creating within Nomad Sculpt where, especially when using the selection mask tool, where it draws all the way through the object to the far side of it, and so when it extruded, it created a second piece on the far side of the duck's body, and so that created that meant even when I remeshed it at a higher resolution, the resolution of the individual pieces never got any larger because it was sharing the total number of polygons or facets with the other object. So, anywho, there's a way to fix that in the brush settings, and I'll do that with the next shape I make. So the thing I was talking about was this front-facing vertex only, which is in that menu there. It's the second item. I'm going to check that box. That means when I'm drawing on the shape, it's not going to affect the thing on the far side of the object. LJ says, I haven't gotten to that. It's for sure referring to the short story Waddlebottom versus the Hecklord. I'm still reading The Middle Age for the 4th time. And I'm sort of rewriting it for the 4th time. Not really. I am at the point now where, like, since we're kind of wrapping up this story arc, I now have index cards laying out everything that's got to happen. And because there's a couple little pieces that I have to shoehorn in there if I'm going to be happy with it. I mean, I'm going to be happy with it, but I mean, I got to have... There are certain moments that have been teased, and there's certain jokes that started off in the initial run of the story that I need to call back to. So, those things will help make the whole thing feel complete, I believe. I hope. Is that what it is? Indeed. We are putting in some tail feathers. Those feathers are very small. I'm going to make them a little bit larger because life is too short otherwise. Can I scale them together? I think I can. I can, but let me do this. Let me reflect right to left. That way when I scale them together, they will be centered. Now, I'm fairly certain there's no single row of feathers that run directly up the... I mean, I'm sure their ducks are symmetrical. That's right, I said it. I said ducks are symmetrical. It's a hot take. So that feather is kind of a... That feather's a lie. That feather's a lie. But I think it'll help me as I build this thing out. I think I'm going to basically create a ridge down the end of it. I have looked at a lot of photographs of duck backs, and all I can say is that clearly the ducks can't groom properly back there. They can't quite see what they're doing because it's a mess. And I haven't found any photographs of any ducks right off the showroom floor before they've had their hair all mussed up. So, all right. How are we doing? We're doing great. We're coming up on 6, the 2-hour mark, where the music's going to get a little more intense. So brace yourselves. I'm going to separate these and get rid of the clone. I'm going to try to smooth this out just a little bit more if I can. Turning symmetry on, even though it's my nemesis, just to smooth out that center one. So we're gonna have a little break here. I don't know what these. Yeah, no, I am terrified of Google. All right. Yeah, I don't hate this yet, but the night is young. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Again, I'm going to separate these and break them apart. I don't know if I need to... No, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it, Steve. All right, you lovely people. I will be back in 5 minutes. Those are the links for getting a free book, finding out more about me and reading my comic online. And Twitch says it's offline. I don't know if Twitch is offline. Tell you what, I'm going to attempt to disconnect it and then reconnect it and see what happens. Actually, I'm going to do that for YouTube as well. So